Hello, friends, and welcome to the most glorious of events, the Movie Mavericks podcast. This outstanding program is hosted by two fine gentlemen, Jason and Trevor. Now make it so.
MovieMavericks.com.
Hey, now everybody, welcome to episode 373 of the Movie Mavericks podcast. I'm Trevor Anderson. Sitting over to Jason Rugard. He's got a rundown for us.
You put some spec on that name, my favorite line from Space Jam, which we'll be talking about this week along with Suicide Squad, Voyagers, The Last Mercenary, Jolt, Tomorrow War, and Masters of the Universe. That's the reboot from Kevin Smith that's causing quite a stir on the internet forums. We'll talk about all of this, but first, a little bit of trivia. It's been a while, and I know you've been keeping up on your Bruce Willis viewing habits, right? Bruno's been big in your household? I would assume so.
Sure. Are you talking about the crappy sci-fi movies I've been watching? With
the one that he releases.
Sure.
He releases one
yes.
every other week now at this point.
Yes, then yes. And action movies too, I guess. Yeah, sure. Everything that he's in for about 5 seconds, yeah.
The action movies that he's in now, he's actually doing none of the actual action. He just sits around with the sardonic look on his face that they cut to every third shot. But regardless, which one of these co-stars did not appear in a movie with Bruce Willis? Did not. Okay? Number one, Cole Hauser. The infamous Cole Hauser. Is that too obscure of a reference?
Huh?
Cole Hauser? Do you remember who Cole Hauser is?
Yeah, I know who Cole Hauser is. I like Cole Hauser.
All right. You like Cole Hauser?
Yeah.
Yeah, so do I. He should have had a bigger career.
I don't know where he's been. Has he been in stuff lately?
Yeah, some stuff, but
I haven't seen
not a lot.
Anything.
So, which one of these people have not been in a movie with Bruce Willis? Cole Hauser, Michael Chiklis, and Lawrence Fishburne. Who hasn't been in a movie with Bruce Willis?
That's hard. I can't even remember half them. Well, in that case, I guess Fishburne.
You guessed correctly.
Okay.
They have not crossed paths on the big screen.
I was trying to think, and I couldn't come up with anything. So,
yeah, you did a good job there. Chiklis was in a recent direct-to-video movie, and Hauser was in a recent direct-to-video movie. Although it's hard to say that they're in the same movie as Willis, because I don't even think these things are shot in the same room on the same day. I think that he's literally edited into these movies half the time, and these actors are speaking to stand-ins. Poor bastards.
Well, what do you want to do? I don't know. I was a big fan of Paparazzi.
Oh,
did you like
yes.
that movie?
I did like
it's
that.
It's a movie I don't think about too often, but you're going to bring up Cole Hauser with that. Oh, and The Cave was very good, too.
Yeah, Cole Hauser has a quiet intensity that always freaked me out. I mean, going back to Dazed and Confused days, he had a certain intensity on screen. And I know that he was a big friend of Matthew McConaughey and Rory Cochrane, all three of who starred in Dazed and Confused.
I don't know anymore necessarily. I haven't seen him in a while, but back then in the early 2000s, late 90s, whatever, he would have made a good T-1000.
He would have been, actually. And I think the summer that Terminator 3 released was the summer that he played the villain in Too Fast, Too Furious. So if you're having a hard time placing who Cole Hauser is, he was the bad guy in the second Fast and Furious movie.
He was in Lakeview Terrace? Was that him?
No, you're mixing him up with goodness, the guy from Watchmen.
Who the hell? The guy from
Birdman
Watchmen? Well,
from
that
Watchmen.
does not help me at all.
Yes. Oh, Patrick.
Right.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Wow. Well, he really looks like Cole Hauser in Lakeview Terrace, I think. Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, it's not the same character, not the same guy. I can't think of his name right now.
Excuse me. Right. Patrick Wilson.
Thank you, Patrick Wilson. Patrick Warburton is the dumb guy.
Yeah, he's not dumb.
Well, he plays a dumb guy.
He just plays dumb.
Yeah, that's true. He's like Rob Riggle.
He's great. Patrick Warburton's great.
Oh, he was. He made the best Tick, right? I mean, the original Tick was the best Tick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had the voice and everything for it is pretty good. I'm the Tick.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of, I mean, that
was
really
better
got
than the remake. Oh, they did remake that. I forgot. Was that a Netflix show?
No, it was
an
Amazon.
Amazon one. Yeah, that remake was not good.
It wasn't. It was very anticipated, and it wasn't didn't deliver at all, is what I'd say.
Not for me, anyways. But especially after you had Patrick Warburton playing the Tick, and for anyone who hasn't seen that show, that older version of it, check that out because I don't know. Watching the introduction of the Tick in the new one is just put to shame by just the old one, where he just shows up and he's like, "I'm the Tick," and bugs the shit out of him. He's like absent-minded in some way.
And he played to perfection by Warburton there. But yeah, Cole Hauser didn't have the big screen career that I thought he was going to have. But paparazzi, regardless, those annoying little fuckers. That movie didn't get
Cave.
The Cave was good. I liked The Cave.
Oh yeah, the Cave has a great score.
Does it now? Is that Marco Beltrami?
I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah, it's not a bad one. Underrated movie actually for what it is. Let's talk about movies now. We got a lot of things to go through. It's been a while since we talked. It's good to talk to you, and we both have seen a lot of things. I think the top of the hour, the thing on most people's lips right now is the Suicide Squad. It was opened up to a disappointing $26 million at the box office. They're blaming the Delta variant. They're blaming HBO Max having the availability there. I'm blaming the fact that this movie is fairly esoteric in that it's meant
mediocre.
Well, let me start by saying this. I didn't hate this movie. I know that you're not the biggest fan of it, but I didn't love Ayer's Suicide Squad. So I didn't go into this thinking, well, what's this going to be? I'll say this. I loved the first act. I really enjoyed the first act of this movie, and I thought, okay, they might have something here. Because they had a B-movie exuberance to it. There's kind of a Sam Raimi type kind of mischievousness to this movie. But I did get I got kind of bored with its outlandishness.
Well,
How many penis shots did I need? There's at least 3 dicks in this movie.
Let me ask you a couple things about this movie. I mean, this movie's mediocre as all hell, and that's my problem with it. Is that it's not bad, but it's not good. It just exists, and that's not something that with what they had available here, and especially for James Gunn, I feel like this is a kind of a big misfire. But what's at stake in this movie, and what's the plot? This movie exists only to exist, and only to serve itself. It's really just not it's not a good movie.
It's episodic. I'll say that. There is no...
It's episodic. Who's the main character? But, I mean, the Harley Quinn stuff's ridiculous and pointless. A lot of this movie is just pointless, right? It just has no point. And the starfish thing at the end, who's under threat here? What are the stakes? There doesn't appear to really be much of anything. They don't even get to the bad guy until well into the third act. Right.
That's true.
Other than that, it's just these guys just wandering around doing stuff. Right. But, I mean, Harley Quinn gets separated from the group, and that whole falling in love sequence and all that stuff with the president is just...
That's a waste of time.
Pointless. I mean, so she's completely underused, and yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I know I'm not wrong that this movie is not good. I don't care what people say.
I'm not going to say. I can't say that it's good, but I was entertained at times. And let me tell you some of the things I did
laughed
like
out loud
about
a couple times. Yeah,
I liked that it was set in the Corto Maltese, which is the fictional country referenced in Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, where Vicky Vale did her wartime photography. I love that little in joke for the DC people. I really liked the beginning when Michael Rooker killed that bird with the rubber ball. I thought, okay, we have something here. This is going to go somewhere. And I really thought it was cool when the polka dot man was vomiting up those neon colors. I thought that moment when Idris Elba's character wakes up and sees him deformed and having to vomit that up and purge was this kind of offbeat, strange. And I wish the movie had more moments like that were almost... it kind of filled me with a little bit of wonder. And the rest of the movie didn't live up to those moments. But I did love one sequence, and that's when Deadshot... or I think it goes by Bloodsport in this movie, which is confusing. And Peacemaker.
It's a different character.
Is it a different character? Okay, I thought it was. Okay, good. I'm glad. Thank you for clearing that up. Because I wasn't sure if this is a fucking sequel, a prequel, a redo, who's what, but thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, right, I know.
I did like the moment when Bloodsport and Peacemaker are dueling with each other and they're talking shit, and John Cena delivers the line when the guy tells him, don't show off. And nobody likes to show off. And he says, unless what you're showing off is dope as fuck. I thought I loved that delivery and that little moment. But once again, This is the kind of stuff that Joss Whedon was doing on Buffy 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
It's way better than this, though.
But it's the same kind of inconsequential...
But that's James Gunn as well, so I'm not going to just... I don't know. My problem with this is that I didn't get into any of the characters in this. I didn't care about anyone, really. I never felt like anyone was in any true danger, even though they killed people off. I felt like, who cares? Kill them. I don't care about any of these people. So, I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I don't feel 13... a draw to revisit this world. I don't, I'm not going to... What, the like Star Wars prequels type argument here?
I just think if I was 13, I don't know, I would have enjoyed this more. But
isn't that always the case?
Level of this.
If only I was a 3-year-old. I don't think that's a valid argument. Like it's just not a very well written movie, or thought out. It feels like it's executed just to exist as a cash in. And I think people notice that, even though they're rating it high and saying it's pretty good and all that. I think that's just walking out. They saw a movie, they didn't hate it. They're like, yeah, it's good, and that's it. I don't believe that's truly a vote of confidence in this moving forward.
I think that the King Shark has the potential to take over Baby Yoda as the next big thing in the children's toys.
Definitely not. But if he has a baby, and then it's Baby Shark, I mean that's already a thing. But hey,
Baby King Shark, King Baby Shark. I did, like I said, I like the B-movie vibe of this, but I did find it overall very dark and nihilistic as well, and that kind of got to me after a while. I wasn't having as much fun as the people on screen were.
I don't think people on screen were having fun. Compared to Guardians of the Galaxy, I mean, you can see where the character thing fails here, but works there. And as well as the world building works there, it doesn't work here.
Well, you have no one to get behind. There's no central character that's likable at all, and I know that's part of the vibe here. But it's really not. There's no. But that doesn't
have to be like that with bad guys. People can be bad, and you can still like them. I mean, that's kind of the Harley Quinn thing. Actually, I mean, for anyone, that's the other thing is, and you've seen the Harley Quinn animated show. Going from that to this, like that puts this to shame.
It's just this isn't to me. It's a misfire, but it's at least an interesting misfire that I didn't mind watching one time. I'll never revisit. I didn't think it was any better or worse than the other Suicide Squad. I just thought it was distinctively different and decidedly different on purpose, and I think I prefer the aesthetic of the Ayer cut a little bit more. I think it was looks more professional.
That's not the Ayer cut, remember.
Oh, that's true. Well, the studio released version of the 2016 Suicide Squad.
There's another cut, guys. You gotta get released.
I don't want to dead name the movie. It's just like all you gotta properly do these things now.
Exactly.
Let's talk about Voyagers, which is a small science fiction movie directed by Neil Berger that was released earlier in the year around April. Didn't make much of a dent. Its really only marketing factor was that it had Lily Rose Depp, Johnny Depp's daughter, in one of the starring roles, and Colin Farrell as well. Tyler Sheridan also co-stars in this, and this is essentially a film that is a young adult novel, it feels like, that was taken to the big screen. This is a movie that I liked the look of. I liked what certain actors were doing, but it grew so much. It just grew more and more ridiculous as it went on, and ultimately, I found it to be about hormonal aggression and suppression of sexual desire and all this stuff that may have seemed very compelling on paper, but as it's executed and acted, it was kind of dull. I didn't mind the opening of this, once again, the first act, but they didn't have anywhere to go after that. That was very exciting, and I thought it was kind of redundant and cheap. Did you find this to be less than?
They certainly don't go into the sci-fi aspects of this that you kind of wish they would, as far as artistically, I guess, for going over those kind of subjects. They don't bother doing that. This kind of devolves into a Lord of the Flies type,
very much so,
simplistic story. After they set up, like as you say, they're repressing sexual desires. Well, they're doing things that are necessary for them to be very calm and sit around and not do much of anything but the work they need to do in order to survive, so that the next generation, because they're on a spaceship, they're going towards a new planet, but they have to live. There has to be several generations of them it's going to take to get to the new planet. So this is the first generation. They're all test tube babies. They don't have parents. They've all grown up to do just this one thing. And so it's kind of what you would have to mentally do to a group of people like that to get them to go through with this, because their life is going to be just on the ship.
In service. Yeah, they're in service of a greater
so to
good.
Speak. They're kind of caught in between. So that's an interesting idea, but I agree with you. This plays out more like a Netflix show than it does a movie, and it's a little episodic in that sense, and I actually think it would have been a better... probably if it was cut up into a show would be better than playing it all as a movie. It is a bit long-winded.
Yeah, even at about an hour and 40 minutes, it felt long-winded. And Colin Farrell wasn't in it long enough. I thought he was the strongest presence in the movie. And to be honest, the villain, whoever the person that they were making out to be the villainous character, wasn't evil enough. The movie was lacking something. It just kind of laid there. But it didn't... I don't know.
Murderer,
Yeah, but once again, the stakes of what we're doing here. So humanity's at stake, but it all comes down to this one raging teenager.
That's the thing that I didn't understand either. It wasn't just humanity was at stake. Like that went to the side. That's what I'm kind of saying. They set this up, then they push that to the side. It becomes a Lord of the Flies thing, where really their lives are at stake, but they don't care. They don't seem to grasp that or understand it, and they're not that young.
No, they're really not.
Playing Lord of the Flies and stuff. So I just didn't understand it. And there's a lot of those moments in this where the bad guy is able to convince other people to go along with him. And he just like, obviously, this guy's just lying right now. This isn't like, who are you really fooled?
I was trying to figure out what mental capacity they were at. Like, were they supposed to be children? Because some of their behavior was so mature.
But they were very smart.
Yeah, that was what was throwing me off too. So, it started off as Gattaca and turned out to be Gattaca Light. And so I was a little dismayed that what I had somewhat invested interest in, like I said, kept getting more and more uninteresting as it went along. So a near miss, but a miss for me. I liked the production design. I liked what some of the actors were doing, but not a very compelling story.
Yeah, I appreciate the attempt, but I don't think overall, if you miss this, you won't be missing much.
Let's talk about The Last Mercenary, Jean-Claude Van Damme's return to the screen, although it be the little screen in the streaming service. Netflix's streaming service is a French film, The Last Mercenary. This is a film that was made in France in the native language and dubbed here for American audiences. Van Damme does do the dubbing of his own voice, which helps quite a bit. There are, let me say this, I found the movie to be slightly more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. It is pretty much just a retread of the Jean-Claude Van Johnson series that ran for a very short time on Amazon. It uses a lot of those kind of same elements. And this is about as predictable as these things get. There's nothing new to see here. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think the action was very good, but it did have a kind of charm to it that I didn't mind. I can't recommend it, but you won't be offended if you watch this movie, because it plays it so safe all across the board in terms of casting, in terms of writing, in terms of... there's nothing new here. You've seen this all before in different ways. The only thing that's good to see is Van Damme back on screen doing the splits and jump kicks.
Sure. I think this is a dud.
Yeah.
Dead in the water as far as I'm concerned. It's a boring movie, really boring for what it's supposed to be. And the Van Johnson stuff is just so much better, so good. I'm upset that we didn't get any more of that.
Yeah,
Instead,
I agree.
we get this, which is just not great. But Van Damme's great. Don't get me wrong. Love him. I watched the movie because he's in it, and I finished it only because he's in it. Believe me, I thought this was super boring.
I didn't understand why they had the guy who was obsessed with Scarface. That had nothing to do with anything.
It's goofy, I guess. It's goofy.
But it's not funny. That's a joke that would have been played out 20 years ago.
Oh no, none of it's funny. It has very, as you say, safe. It kind of feels like an 80s spoof movie sometimes, like that, where it's a joke like that, like a guy's obsessed with Scarface and pretends to be Scarface and things, which for whatever reason would be safe or funny in the 80s. I don't know why.
If you want to see a good Van Damme comedy, quote unquote comedy, check out Welcome to the Jungle from about 5 or 6 years ago, where he played a survivalist to a group of corporate workers who had to do a team building exercise in the in the jungle. That at least has some solid laughs, and the tone is more correct. This was all over, and I couldn't tell if it was because of the dubbing, the lost in translation, but then I thought no, because they're just doing all the regular shit that we do here in America in terms of the boring stuff, the car chases, the lackadaisical fight scenes, the mistaken identity. This is the kind of movie where one sentence could clear up a lot of bullshit, but because nobody says that one sentence, the plot can continue down these little corridors it goes to. So
that is every movie I've ever seen, though.
Yeah, I know, but this especially was obvious in this. Right, it was driving me nuts.
Well, especially I hate it when movies do that, and it's also boring. Like nothing suspenseful or really exciting is happening. You're like, just say it, just tell them, move to the next thing, already. Move on. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Space Jam, the Warner Brothers release that was out in theaters, came out to HBO Max as well simultaneously, which is everything that's happening this year with Warner Brothers. And I must say, I was really let down by this. I loved the first Space Jam.
Surprising.
I tried to get through
this. You've seen
the
trailers, right, before you watched this.
I know, but I at least had my hopes up for it. And there were moments in here that I smiled when little jokes about Warner Brothers. And I thought that the hardest working person in this movie was Don Cheadle. I thought he, as the algorithm, was really the highlight of it.
I mean, I have a story for you about Don Cheadle here, but it has to do with this movie a little bit. So,
I just thought here that it's what started off as Space Jam turned into Ready Player One or Speed Racer. I mean, it has that kind of hallucinatory, that trippy look to it. Not as fun on either. I don't know,
and
things.
I kind of feel like the worlds he went through, like as you saw, like something like The Matrix or.
DC Land,
little things, all kinds of stuff like popped up through as he's flying through it. It just felt so gratuitous.
It didn't feel that way years ago when the Looney Tunes would insert themselves into Raiders of the Lost Ark or Superman or things like that.
Well, if they did it would be fine. But when he did it, it was more like a passing thing. Like, oh, remember all these great Warner titles you can also watch.
That's what I felt like too. Yeah,
and I was like, okay, I don't need to drive past all these billboards through the movie.
I thought the exact same thing. I'm glad we're on the same. It felt like this was an advertisement for the Warner Brothers studio tour, for their library titles, for things that are coming out. Remember The Matrix, because there's a new one coming out this year. You know, it's like all this kind of stuff. And it really, for all the high-tech shit that was on screen, it felt cheap. The whole story, I mean, the first 5 minutes, with the video game and the kid that doesn't want to be a basketball player. And, excuse me. And LeBron is not a good actor by any means. I mean, Michael Jordan, I thought, was a lot more comfortable on screen than LeBron. I remembered him being okay in Trainwreck, but apparently he's lost that charm on screen because he didn't come off well in this movie, I didn't think at all. Did you? I mean, it's particularly the opening scene.
He's kind of well. First of all, do we still have to do this whole Disney thing? Be yourself. Like, is that really? Is that still necessary to build an entire movie like this around that, where he's learned? And by the way, he was told by someone to do it this way. And then he's telling someone to do it that way too, but it worked for him. But now when he does it to someone else, he's supposed to learn the lesson of not to push that on someone else.
Nice,
but it was pushed
point
on him, right? I don't understand. We quit doing this. Like, everyone's special, everyone's a snowflake, and they all have their own way of doing things. That's unnecessary to do that. You know, he can be a dad and want the kid to do like he did. And then, it doesn't have to be like some super dumb stuff. I don't know. It's just such a kids' movie thing at this point. I'm tired of that. Build the movie around something else. I mean, he's literally going to be playing basketball to save the world here. Is that not enough?
Well, didn't you miss that so much of it was in CG and not actual hand-drawn animation? This is clearly leagues away from where we were with Space Jam.
But by the time they did that, I just didn't care anymore.
It takes way too long to get this thing going. This is an hour and 55 minutes, which is almost a half an hour longer than the Michael Jordan version.
I never knew that, that LeBron James was married to Michael from Star Trek Discovery. I had no idea. That's the thing that gets me. But this movie's real, right? He plays LeBron James.
That's his real wife, kids, right? Too, right?
That's his kids, yeah.
Great actors.
Right?
Great actors. Yeah, this is obviously a negative vote for me. I'm not the intended audience, neither are you, but I was just, I thought this would be more than it turned out to be, because I thought the trailer was somewhat amusing.
Choking up over here.
I thought, yeah, because Space LeBron, you talk shit about LeBron, he put the fucking hex on you.
I guess so. He might have. I don't know. I did watch the night before I watched this, for whatever reason, Hotel for Dogs was turned on, which I never saw. And I actually liked it.
I've never seen it either.
It's a Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's in this movie.
Wow.
But I was surprised how much I liked it. It was like a kids movie that was really about kids going through something, instead of like what kids trying to teach kids how to be and stuff. It was just the kids kind of going through like how movies used to be. It kind of reminded me of like that never-ending story kind of a vibe to it, even though it's
Wait, was that
Hotel
the movie
for
where the
Dogs.
dogs were stuck at the airport?
No, they're not in the airport. The kids are it's whatever, the Roberts girl, Emma Roberts, and some other kid, and they're brother and sister, but they're in the system, and they don't like it. They don't like their foster parents and stuff. And they try to. They have this dog that they can't take with them anywhere because the foster parents don't want it, and so they wind up finding this old hotel that's broken down, and they turn it into like a doggy daycare center thing.
I think they fucked up by not
They
calling it
save all the
doggy
dogs.
daycare.
It's not a doggy daycare. They just bring all the mutts and dogs and stuff there, and then they live there and they take care of them. The lesson that I learned from this is that you can, if you find an old hotel like that and you want to take care of a bunch of dogs, it doesn't cost any money to feed them. They drove around a big truck the whole time, so they didn't pay for it. They got free gas. And then at the end of the movie, the city decided that they would spend money to revamp the hotel, and it would be a hotel for dogs.
Oh, how wonderful.
That's the lesson I learned. It's free money.
Well, this is a movie that you're recommending right now on the show.
I would actually, if you're looking for a family-friendly movie. Never seen it. And it wasn't as dumb as I thought it was going to be. I was going to say, like, the vibe is a little more my kinds of a kid's movie. If I was a kid, I would have liked this way more than Space Jam. I don't understand the appeal of remaking Space Jam in this way.
Bro, you know what I watched the other night? Talk about dog cinema, since you let me know about yours. Let me tell you about mine.
K9.
No. Beethoven. It's on Netflix. It had been so long since I saw that movie. The first one, of course, the only good one. It had been so long since I had saw that movie that I recalled every single fucking scene, though. It was scary. I was like, oh, yeah, this is the guy who becomes the doctor,
weird,
who
right?
acts like the dog bit him, and this is this, that, and the other. And the movie is not good by any stretch of the imagination, but it's so watchable.
But it's made during a certain time period that you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. That hour and 20 minutes flew by, and I was like, you know what? That wasn't that bad.
It's interesting how those older movies kind of take the same ploy and things that they'll use in today's movies, but it seems like they do it better back then. I don't know.
I think they hit it. They hit the medicine in the candy a little bit better back then.
Yeah.
Now they wear it on their sleeve. You can see what the themes are from the very first scene, and it's obnoxious. All right, let's talk about The Tomorrow War, which was the big July 4th release from Amazon Pictures. This might be my favorite movie released to a direct-to-DVD service or direct-to-streaming service. It was Spencer Confidential from Netflix last year. I think Tomorrow War
go this.
is even better. I thought that this, to me, exemplified the summer blockbuster, the July 4th weekend summer blockbuster, the alien takeover, the big, exuberant, funny, just over-the-top spectacle. And as a movie that ran 220 in terms of time, my attention didn't flag all that much. It's obviously designed for a sequel. I think Chris Pratt is one of our best leading men right now. I thought he was great in this role. I really like J.K. Simmons as well. And I really liked the comedic relief by the African-American actor, the heavyset guy, I can't remember his name, who was in the movie Gringo and Office Christmas Party. He's really good in this. I just thought all the elements came together in this in a way that I really enjoy for summer blockbuster popcorn entertainment. I highly recommend The Tomorrow War.
Yeah, I agree. And it's well written to boot, so take that. I like the twists and the turns, and the plot is you think it's going to be simple, and then it kind of turns the whole time thing actually plays well into the plot, I thought. And makes things a little more interesting. And I don't want to give anything away, but I do like the way that they kind of hold back on showing you the monsters. Kind of builds up suspense in that regard. And this movie does a good job of that, actually. It takes a long time before they even really get into the fight for the future. But it is a little weird. It's a strange movie. I'll just put that. I think time travel makes a lot of things strange, but it's definitely something that I would have seen Tom Cruise in.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a pretty
or Brad Pitt,
high
or one
praise,
of the big,
I would say, or Brad Pitt. Yeah. So it's definitely as you said, like a 4th of July movie, and it really was. To feel like that. So yeah, I can't wait to actually see more of this. I think it's an interesting movie, and it kind of makes me wish that they had made more sequels to a lot of other movies right away in a big blockbuster format. Like I feel like this is going to get that treatment because it's linked to the one content provider. It's linked to Amazon, so they're going to put more money into making sequels for this. Whereas you don't really get that through theatrical play so much.
Well, not that quickly either. I mean, they get this into production immediately.
Quickly, yeah. I was thinking like Starship Troopers or lots of things that didn't get sequels right away. That you kind of wish it would have been great to have had a sequel the next year, if not
even Men in
2
Black.
years later.
I would have said Men in Black would be the same way. I mean, 5 years between sequels from the first to the second can kill a franchise. But I did think that. Because I just wonder if this was in the theaters, how well this would have done in normal times. Because this, to me, like I said, this typifies the big blockbuster, the summertime entertainment. Get some air conditioning and turn off your mind for a couple hours and watch some. And I think I said Chris Pratt can deliver a line. Maybe he can deliver the best one-liner since Schwarzenegger. He has a way with delivering one-lines that is it's fucking great. He kills one-liners. I don't know. Big fan of Pratt. Big fan of this movie. I hope that they do another one very soon. I hope they don't just dry this whole concept out too quickly. But having said that, this first one is a lot of fun. What
is funny, I mean, I'll throw this out for you right here. Comedians, back in the day when action comedy first started, you had comedians, or comedic actors at least, getting into action movies, and they didn't beef up. But now you got Pratt, you got Ryan Reynolds, you got a lot of comedic actors who beef up for the action roles. So it's
you're right. I didn't think about that.
It kind of works even better nowadays than it has ever before.
Yeah, because these guys are believable in doing the action part, but they can still do the comedic.
But they can still
chops.
deliver the comedy.
And Ryan Reynolds has built a career on that, like you said. But highly recommend Tomorrow War. I'm glad that we're on the same page on this. I think it's the best movie on today's show. All right, let's talk about another Amazon Prime release, and that's the Kate Beckinsale action flick, Jolt. I don't know if you've seen this one recently, but it's on your Prime video feed, I'm sure, because they're trying to push this shit. And this is this is decidedly a B movie. I mean, I feel kind of goofy saying this, but I kind of enjoyed this movie.
I liked it a lot. I hope they make sequels.
This is no different than it's very similar to Statham's Crank in a lot of ways from 2006.
It's way toned down though.
You can see though. Actually, it's funnier than that. It's not as manic as that film. This is a little bit more measured, and I dig Beckinsale as an action heroine. I really do. Out of all the big ones with Jovich and Jolie and Johansson, all the J's, I actually like Beckinsale the best. I find her very credible, even though she's so diminutive in size. I just think that she can handle these roles exceedingly well.
But you haven't seen the Underworld movies.
I've tried. I fall asleep in the first one The first one's a fucking sleeping pill. If I can't go to bed, I'll put on that first. I've seen that train sequence 20 times. I'll get to it. I swear I'll get to it.
It's sad.
It's Beckinsale in her prime.
Yeah,
I'm just saving it for a good day.
This movie's, Beckinsale plays a girl who has impulse control issues. She's very angry. She's red and just beats the living crap out of everybody. And it's a ridiculous movie. And to give you an example, she has this impulse control. No one can control it. So the army wants to take a shot at it, but they don't attempt to control her. They just have her like fight someone, and then she beats the hell out of everybody, and then they're like, okay, you can't be in the army anymore. A lot of the movie makes no sense like that. It makes zero sense. But it's still fun movie. I thought so. Some of the Stanley Tucci scenes were pretty funny with her,
and the Barbie Carnival scenes.
Interesting
are pretty
enough.
Funny.
Yeah, and it has twists and things. It almost becomes like a Private Eye type movie for a while. She's trying to figure out what's going on, and I don't want to give anything away because it actually has a pretty good twist. I did call, though, I will say.
I did not. I
Didn't
not
fool
call. I was
me.
not paying that closely attention, apparently.
I thought, well, it's a little obvious because you kind of, I don't know, it's a tiny bit obvious, but yeah, interesting movie. I thought it was actually well written and as you say, well acted and fun. So yeah, I want more.
I like Jai Courtney as the boyfriend, the shy boyfriend as well. Did you recognize him as that?
Yeah, he worked. Yeah, and you know, obviously we could talk more about that, but I don't want to give.
Right, but when you see Jai Courtney in the role, you'll realize, oh, that's kind of a small role for an actor of that size, and then you realize why. But I thought that the whole concept here that she's a bouncer, which is absolutely outrageous. You know, she's such a badass.
Yeah.
Like she has this electrodes connected to her spinal cord and her
she has to shock
she
herself in order to calm herself down, right?
Which
that's
doesn't
the
seem like
idea,
that would
which
calm you.
Doesn't
That
make
would
a
seem to
lot of
piss me
sense.
off.
But yeah, but apparently Stanley Tucci is her guy who builds the stuff, and I don't really understand what is. If he's like the psychiatrist guy, I guess
Stanley
that's what he
Tucci
is.
can almost make any movie better by his presence.
Oh yeah, just Stanley Tucci is one of those. I won't say he's a character actor, but he almost is. But he's one of those actors that can give a look, just one look, and you're like, oh yeah, I know what he's going for. I know what's going on.
He's very much a Mandy Patinkin, but I actually prefer Tucci over the other guy. You know, but they have kind of like the same build to me and the same.
Well, I think
they're
the same build. I think Tucci's much smaller than Patinkin, isn't he?
Is that right? Oh well.
Little Mandy there.
Well, Tucci's
Mandy,
ripped.
I think, is a big guy. That's bigger
Back in the
than-
day, Tucci was ripped. What did I just... Oh, shit. You know what he was just in the other day? He was in Beethoven. He's one of the guys trying to steal Beethoven. It's him and Oliver Platt. If you go back and rewatch Beethoven, you're like, whoever the
Yeah, it's
casting
Oliver
director
Platt.
was here is fantastic. Yeah, the Tucci...
Well, lucky it wasn't the Wet Bandits.
Oh, fuck, Marv. Come on, Marv. Let me do it one last time. So I actually recommend Jolt. I barely recommend it, but I do recommend Jolt.
I recommend it. Fuck it, watch it.
There you go.
It's free.
Now,
it's
on
better
to
than Space Jam.
It is better than Space Jam. On to Masters of the Universe, the Netflix animated cartoon that was definitely aimed at our generation, people that grew up in the 1980s with the Masters of the Universe He-Man toys and cartoons. This is probably my favorite toy line / cartoon series of all time growing up. I was a massive He-Man fan growing up as a kid, even like the Dolph Lundgren movie, that goofy fucking movie.
But were you a Tila Tequila fan?
I liked Tila Tequila quite a bit actually back there in 2005, but that's a whole different show. Tila, Man-at-Arms' daughter, was never my favorite character, but in this show, this 5-episode, 25 minutes,
she is now
2 hours and 5 minutes. She dominates the entire thing, and that was the big online furor, right? That He-Man was sidelined and that she had taken over.
Right.
It didn't, but I thought the first episode, the pilot, is very tightly written, and I really enjoyed it. And I did like seeing some of the characters and what they were doing, because it had this Lord of the Rings vibe where Tila has to go and gather all these people to get He-Man back from basically heaven or hell. And I did like seeing Cyclops running the cult and Merman doing this thing on a boat and all these kind of little touches. But people were right. There is no He-Man in this. This story, 3 episodes in, I started getting real itchy.
For how smart this was intended to be, it's really kind of dumb. Like the whole He-Man in heaven thing, and they're like, He-Man, if you leave, you can never come back. And it's like, dude, you realize there's like all these fucking people that just showed up that weren't even meant to be here. He could probably come fucking back in 5 seconds. How'd they fucking get there? Like, this is clearly just a story, as most He-Man stuff is, that's just written to roll out to have some shit that happens, right? So that's why I almost liked, as you say, the first episode, and even to some extent that last episode as well. What I thought was really cool. It was interesting to see a little bit of some different things, and it seemed like it was a little smarter to have it be laid out. But then by the time you get to some of the end things, like Skeletor having hidden in the in her whatever globe thing, I don't know what the hell it was. Yeah. It's just so stupid. It's like, this is so ridiculous. And Mark Hamill, did anyone tell him this was Skeletor, not the Joker?
He can only do one type voice. That's what he's known for now.
I mean, I don't know. There was a lot. I thought, like, the animation, the style animation is really good.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
I thought Sarah Michelle Gellar is horrible as Teela. Really?
I thought she was
I thought it was terrible. I thought her voice didn't work at all.
I thought she was fine.
No, I didn't like it. Yeah. I think there's too much not to like about this.
Well, it gets redundant.
A plus.
It gets real redundant to me.
It's just not. It's also not what I would have wanted to see. I would have wanted to see He-Man. I mean, there's no reason this story couldn't be He-Man's story, and Teela couldn't be in it, and all these people couldn't be doing what they're doing. But there's literally a moment in this where they like kind of retcon these secondary characters into being more badass than the main characters. They have this whole conversation, and they just kind of flippantly, they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, like He-Man and like Skeletor, like the battles they have are basically like stage plays and shit. They're like, Man of Arms is the badass. He's the one you got to look out for. They're like, yeah, and, you know, and that same conversation is basically about how women are better than men. And it's like, why is that in here?
Well, you know that
it's
the
horrible.
whole... You saw the Lord of the Rings vibe. When they go to get Man-at-Arms, he's got the Viggo Mortensen role
and
there
where
he's hiding off.
He just jets off. It's like, well, why? What's the build-up for? He didn't even do shit.
I loved the animation style. I liked the idea of where they were going initially, but I think you're right. Then there's no reason that this couldn't have been He-Man on a quest to go do something, as opposed to him being...
There's just too much to complain about, I feel like. The whole time I'm watching, I'm just thinking, God, why did you do this? And then it leads back to the whole, and not that I'm too into this, I really don't care. Smash of the Universe thing, I don't have to watch this. You know, this doesn't actually hurt me in any way whatsoever. But the whole Kevin Smith thing, when you look into that, not even looking at that, I just saw it happen. Right, he basically lied about all this, right? To everyone's face. They dug up dirt about it, you know, and he's basically said he was never a He-Man fan back in the day. And you hear all these things, and it's like, oh, everything kind of clicks together, and you're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, because he's basically just a shill. I mean, true to life, he really is at this point. And so it makes a lot of sense that they would hire him to do this, thinking that it would be a good PR move and everything, and it turns out to not work.
I think if a few episodes work, like you said, the first one definitely does. Parts of the last one do. Sequences here and there work. But for a show that only has 5 episodes, to have this be your story, if this was 15 episodes or even 12,
there's supposed to be
then
more.
That'd be fine. Well, of course there's going to be more. I mean, they have to do that. They're invested in it now. They're going to do at least 2 seasons.
No,
but...
I don't think this is the whole first season.
Oh, well.
I could be mistaken, but I don't think I am.
That would be a little bit better.
So there's still 5 more episodes to go that have not been released yet.
Okay, well maybe they can course correct.
So that's what Kevin Smith's been saying. Wait till the next 5 episodes. So I like, fair enough on that. You know, I'll watch them. But at the same time, I don't have a lot of faith in this. I mean, you wasted half the season doing this other nonsense.
But like I said, I did like the drawing style, the animation, the color schemes. It felt very much of a piece from the toy line and the previous cartoons.
That's true. And I guess they gave away the ending. They released as with everything, it's funny when this happens, they released the toys, of course, before the show. And so everyone knew, you know, the ending of the show. Everyone knew that you got Super Skeletor at the end, you know. Because the toys came out.
I think voiced by Tony Todd. He's got a voicing in there. Or he's Scarecrow or Scarecrow.
No, Skeletor's Mark Hamill, yeah. Tony
Todd's doing a voice in there somewhere.
Yeah, they had a lot of a buttload of people in here.
Yeah, the lady who's doing Eva Lynn, I liked her line.
Yeah, Lynn Headey. A lot.
Yeah, she was very, very good in that. well cast with that raspy voice. But yeah, a missed opportunity here so far in the first half of the season. I do look forward to the second half. I will watch it, but I'm sure it's gonna need a lot to rectify what was going on in the first. But like you said, there were moments where they shit on certain characters that I felt like had established themselves, and
I just don't understand how you have that conversation where someone says He-Man and Skeletor, not you don't have to worry about them. Like their fighting isn't going to result in any deaths or anything. And then, of course, at the end of the fucking episode, the first and second episode is literally those two like have done all this shit. You know, they've started all this.
Did you get the condom joke where she says "no glove, no love"?
No, it probably wasn't. Look, for a lot of this, I tuned out. It was on, but I just thought this was, especially in the couple of those, like the third and the fourth episode are long-winded, man. Ugh.
Yeah, they don't go anywhere very much. But she, this is Tila's, I presume her lover, because that's what they looked at each other a couple times. Like there was a certain nod. Did you pick that vibe up too?
Oh wow, yeah.
I assume so. So her lover was like the J Muse of the fucking this whole thing. She would have these lines every once in a while that felt very Kevin Smith-esque. Like, oh, this was his polish, was to add a couple, double entendres or a fucking dirty joke here and there.
I mean, I didn't know anything. All I saw when I watched this was Tila acting like a bitch the whole time. Like she didn't give a fuck about anybody. She's like, I don't want to do this shit. Fuck you. And then her friend would be like, but it'll be cool. And she was like, all right. It's like, okay, it's a good reason to go on an adventure. But that was what they did. That was literally the whole show. It was like, fuck you guys. You guys lied to me about Adam being He-Man. Fuck you. I can't even look at you.
She was very pouty about
this
that.
Is horrible.
It was for her own good. She was so embarrassed by the high court when that happened. She was the only one.
Well, she's seen Adam in heaven, returned from the grave. She's like, fuck you. Why did you lie to me?
Like, her dad has given his whole fucking life up for to be for his liege, and now he can't even step foot in the goddamn Eternia.
It's fucking oh my god, talk about just burning the whole fucking house down. I mean, jeez.
There was no shark to jump, but I'm sure they'll find one.
I don't know where it'll go, but it might be interesting, and hopefully it'll get better.
Well, shit, man. So what's the count for tonight? So we got I'm giving. No, I can't recommend Suicide Squad, and neither are you. We both are negative on Voyager. Neither of us recommend that. The Last Mercenary, I can't recommend that either. On Jolt, though, we did both like Jolt. We recommend that for some B-movie fun. Yeah. Tomorrow War, I think, is fantastic.
For sure.
It's a definite recommend. I think it's one of the better movies I've seen this year, and maybe the best movie ever released to the streaming services. And Space Jam, we both were negative on that. Continuing HBO and Warner Brothers
negative,
shit
but it's the second
slate.
Best movie released to streaming.
And what's unbelievable is that I would have paid to see most of these Warner Brothers movies in the theater and been highly disappointed all year. Yeah. That's what I keep thinking about. I would have paid to see Without Remorse.
If I had seen, oh yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. There's some of these, I would be even more down on movies had I seen a lot of these in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a reason I didn't catch Fast 9 in
that includes that Paramount Plus release of that Mark Wahlberg movie.
I got to catch that.
Whatever the hell that's called, Infinity, whatever.
Infinite.
Fucking terrible.
I've heard that over and over.
Oh my god, there has been very little that's been released this year that has actually been worth seeing, and I think at some point they're going to have to address that they have a storytelling problem.
Yeah, that's what's going on. I mean, if you look at the movies that are coming to HBO Max, and I get excited for every single one of them. I mean, it started off really with the little things, and I was like, that's weird. And then I liked Godzilla Kong, and then Mortal Kombat was a huge letdown. And everything that followed has pretty much been a letdown.
It's not a budget problem. It's not a technical problem as far as special effects or quality control for the look of the movies or any of that kind of artistry, this technical artistry. It's spot on. It's a damn script writing problem.
It reminds me of when we had that writer's strike in 2008, and then all the movies in 2009 were written like
and a
shit.
Director
Do you recall
problem
that?
As well, yeah. But this is because we have such a producer-heavy system right now.
Yeah, the Kevin Feige's of the world and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
There has to be some kind of a control sharing with directors, I guess, to some degree.
Well, it's the showrunner mentality.
Especially when it comes to Warner Brothers. Like Warner Brothers, especially this past decade, has been really bad about not allowing directors to have their way with their own movies.
Which, well, they notoriously, I mean, this is why the Schumacher cut is still being talked about.
Warner Brothers, the studio,
forever.
Kicks in the door. They're like, I declare prima nocta, and they, take away the director's movies and fuck it. He can't even. He doesn't even get it on the wedding night.
Well, we've heard this over and over and over again about movies being taken from people and the Ayer cut now we might get, but at some point you just got to realize that these are movies that are done by committee, and it's amazing that any of these fucking movies get made and pass through the system and that they're coherent at all, because most of the time you have a director who is only working with the actors, a second unit action directors who are doing their own thing, and the fact that this tonally even cuts together is fucking amazing half the time.
Oh yeah, we need stronger directors. We need someone with a vision that can cut through all of this. And I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, you look at how Marvel and Warner Brothers, any of these big studios shoot their movies now, and there's too much money being spent on the technical side of things that those people know what they're doing, and they do not fuck with that. And so as a director, you don't get a lot of say in like a lot of the action sequences and a lot of that kind of stuff. It's kind of choreographed out, maybe beyond you. And in that sense, they start to hire then directors who don't do that kind of stuff. They, as you say, they're mostly working with the actors. They don't. They basically hire directors that won't pay attention to that. They won't have to deal with that.
That's weird. How you can get a Chloe Zhao.
It's television making. That's how they make television shows. It's
the best
so
director Oscar. She's doing a Marvel movie. This is why you can get people that have never done anything ever that outside of a low budget film to do a big budget Marvel movie.
And streaming's not helping.
So many departments.
Yeah, streaming's making this worse because everything is long form, episodic oddities, weird stuff now. Can someone just make a movie? When was the last time someone just made a movie? Should I get a movie?
That's why I think I like Jolt a little bit more than probably was known, because it just felt like a 90-minute movie.
And to be fair,
wasn't going to change the world.
The Tomorrow War, is the one movie that escapes all this, but is still, feeds into all of this. it just
has
happens to have worked out.
Yeah, the committee got one right, and it passed through all these bakers' hands, and it's edible. In the end, it's kind of how it's amazing when that happens, though. But I mean, look at how many misguided projects there are, and most movies suck. Most movies don't work, and it pains me to say that. But if you watch them, this. It's being done by committee. You can feel it. You can feel when scenes don't gel right, when you're utterly fucking confused and you've lost the plot. You shouldn't be losing the plot in any movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, it feels like nobody. I don't know. There was a point in time when people knew how to write screenplays. They paid attention to things. They talked about this stuff. And then there was a point in time when, and this was about when I think you and me went to school, went to film school, where people just wanted to make money off of teaching people how to make movies. And it was at that point in time that nobody gave a shit anymore. People were more interested
Robert
in
McKee idea, the formula.
There was just no craft anymore, because the craft was talking about the craft. I was like, well, who's actually making this? Like, who's paying attention? Who's actually learning this stuff and then applying it to something? Well, nobody, because it was all the producers slowly started getting power. They didn't give a shit about any of this. They used to, but you'd have to go back to the 90s and the early 2000s to find a point in time when they did actually care. They don't care anymore. It's crazy.
Well, and you can't have the strong opinion either, unless you're a Tarantino or somebody who's very established, because now the cancel culture and whatnot. So you have to toe the line as a producer.
Well, look at Feige now. I mean, he's got Marvel is painting themselves into a corner here. I don't know where the hell they're going to go after this, but I think they've exploited the strongest stories that they had available to them, basically handed on a golden platter to them. Now they're going to have to actually work for it, and I'm not sure they can actually do it.
Meanwhile, Jerry Bruckheimer's still producing hits in his 70s. Unfucking believable. I love it. Well, that's going to wrap up tonight's show. We want to thank you guys for joining us on episode 373. It's hard to think we've done that many, but you can find all of our back episodes on MovieMavericks.com, on Apple, Spotify, we're on there, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever you may listen to this. Rate, review, like the show, give it a star rating, whatever, help the algorithm out, and let's get the word out and get more people listening to the show. We want to thank you guys always for joining us. Speaking for Trevor Anderson, I am Jason Rugard, and we are the Movie Mavericks.
Oh my, another magnificent episode has come to an end. If you're craving more, set your destination to MovieMavericks.com, Warp 9. Engage!